What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's me, Walter 2 on me, representing Neo Defective Gaming once again, aka Neo Defective. You can find me over on twitch.tv/NeoDefectiveGaming, where I stream for you guys only in the nights. Only at nights, and if you can catch me there, it's usually going to be during the demon hours / Oni hours. I mean the nights going into days. It's kind of wild the way I stream. Very popular over in New Zealand and Australia. They love me over there. Today is January 21st, 2022, and we are continuing the snowball trend that is Twitterverse with Phil Spencer announcing the deal, right? We're just going to call it
The deal.
If you were sleeping under a rock, that's the only way you'd avoid this news. This has blown up all of the internet. And it continues to do that. Phil Spencer has continued to blow up the internet with his tweets continuing out there. I mean, again, let's just go right on over to it. So Phil Spencer tweets, "Had good calls this week with the leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of the industry, and we value our relationship." This thing has been combed through. It has been glossed through with magnifying glass. It's been PR infused to make sure that this thing can go any 17 million different directions. Every word is specifically chosen so that they're the good guys. Because the big news was Call of Duty. Where is Call of Duty going? Because this one tweet says a million different things. A million different things, and they can switch it up into so many different ways depending on how Sony responds. Now, Sony did respond as well yesterday, but mostly trying to make up ground off of pretty much the fallout of what happened with this purchase. Their response was more along the lines of, you know, their stocks took a fat hit, and necessarily so. It was going to, because they have yet to pretty much, I mean, this is huge news. This is groundbreaking video game stuff. But let's kind of go into this tweet a little bit, right? It says, "I confirmed our intent." Now here's the thing. Key word here is intent. The key word is intent, to honor all existing agreements, maybe even existing, right? You can pick every single word here. Upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Now, I'm going to say, out of all this, they can go so many routes, right? We know that if Sony says, well, we want to have Call of Duty on our system. Remember, Sony tried to make sure that they got their version of the Call of Duty, right? They went Killzone, and unfortunately that flopped. I think they tried another video game that also, I'm not saying flopped, but they didn't pan out in the way that they expected. And then I think they kind of resigned into pretty much just sitting down, letting Call of Duty be the #1 FPS out there, and not really trying to battle with it. They have it on their system. We have it on the PlayStation. Why even try to compete with it? Just let it be its own thing. And they did. But now it looks like they're going to have to get back into that space, because the people at Sony got a little too comfortable, being that they pretty much left E3, right? We do our own thing now. We don't do what you guys do. We're too big for that. They got way too cozy. They let the Call of Duty machine take over, become its own thing. There's no competition for it. So if there's no competition, Call of Duty is going to be constantly released annually, and annually is going to be not a great game. I mean, the critically panned, it's universally sold. It's one of those things where everybody's going to buy it regardless, even though it just got announced again recently that it was the #1 franchise of all time. Critics didn't like the game in Call of Duty Vanguard, but people still bought it. It's still the most commercially viable thing out there as far as video games and media. So what I say here is, when they say, "I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements," that's existing agreements, right? So nothing's going to change now, but it could change in the future. Intent being, hey, can you guys put Xbox Game Pass on PlayStation? That's what everybody seems to be thinking, is that Xbox is going to try to push Game Pass onto other consoles. Now, I don't think Nintendo would go for that, because Nintendo, they pretty much walk onto their own beat, right? But Sony doesn't. Sony plays ball. They played hardball, but they play. Regardless of the fact is they play. And if you want to play with Call of Duty, if you want to continue to have a relationship with Call of Duty, which Xbox owns, you're gonna have to find a way to put it on your console. And how do you put that on your console? Well, you put it on Game Pass, or you spend some lucrative dollars to make sure that that thing is on here. That thing is on your console. So regardless, a lot of people are out here saying, oh, just take Call of Duty away from PlayStation, you know, the console wars. But what these kids don't get is that it's not so much as a console war, it's more of a content situation where it's who can nab and have the most content. Now, Sony, of course, has some very viable in-house content. I mean, very exceedingly well produced, established in-game content. Speaking of that, you know, side note on that one tangent, Xbox owns Crash Bandicoot and Spyro the Dragon, two Sony created entities. That's wild to me to think about. But regardless, is they know that Sony can still play and rely on their AAA games that are going to be possibly the games of the year, right? Like, they're just a little bit more nuanced in story, and people love those. And of course, Sony has a great, masterful way of getting music producers to make scores for their games. And there's so many things that Sony does really well when it comes to producing a masterpiece game versus a pure almost content kind of game in the Xbox realm, the way that they go around that space. So with this intent, what do? How does Xbox go about this? If Sony decides not to do anything, well, they at Xbox can just say, well, we tried, guys. We tried to make sure that Sony would take it. They just didn't want to put Xbox Game Pass on their console. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. We tried, Sony players. Now, I'm going to fall in line and assume that Xbox is trying to make sure that Sony puts Xbox Game Pass on their console. I mean, I can see other ways of doing it, pretty much just letting them do it, but paying a premium. Will Sony play like that? Are they willing to spend millions and millions of dollars of a game that they're not playing with? Now, the other thing is people are gonna be like, nah, why would you do that as Xbox? That's competition. Like, why would you weed out your competition? Well, here's the thing is if you spend billions of dollars on any kind of content, you're gonna want to maximize the revenue to make that money back for your investors. You're going to play hardball. You're going to try to put it on Xbox Game Pass. You're going to try and make sure that these people play or pay a premium to have this content on their consoles. Even if it's on, say, Nintendo, which has been a little bit more lenient on what they're willing to dish out. I mean, they have The Witcher for all the gods' sakes. But what are they going to do is this is going to continue until the deal finalizes and closes. We're going to see shifts in leadership. We're going to see more news of people getting pushed in, being brought in, pushed out. And Call of Duty is it's the biggest thing out there, whether you play it and you like it or not, and you think everybody that plays it is a shill, or you enjoy it and you just want to play it on multiple consoles. Well, you have to hope that this deal is going to work out for both Microsoft and Sony, but you know that Microsoft has the upper hand. The ball's in their court. They can right now, it's pretty much like they got free throws. They can just keep shooting for a little while until Sony just decides, you know, what their hand is going to be, how they're going to play this situation. This is huge, guys. This is huge. All right, and this one over at IGN by Jared Moore. Okay, so Raven QA employees form Activision Blizzard's first union. This is pretty much a big deal, considering that video games have been trying to unionize for a while now. Now, I'm no fan of unions. I understand what they feel is the need to have a union, to have more of a voice, to be able to see their families more, to not have to work those crazy hours that they do, to not be divorced from your families, essentially, once you come into the video games development department. Like, you want to have a life outside of work, and you don't really get that in the video games industry. As lucrative as it is, it's a tough business. And you hear of all these families falling apart and all the situations that can happen, like with Bobby Kotick, that just allows this weird, perpetuating, disgusting, womanizing, and I mean on both ways, both parts. Like, granted, you're not going to hear about it from a female to male perspective. It's always going to be like a male dominated business the way that it goes, like the way that this has always been. So it's going to have that weird, again, quote unquote, frat boy style of operating. This is the beginnings of seeing a lot of different developers forming unions, and this is the first gaming union. The talks have been there forever, but now you're going to actually see it. And how the ball starts rolling with this one is, are other companies going to start doing it? For sure. I think it was always going to be that way. And again, I don't necessarily think it's a great thing. I've been in a union before. I used to work for the USPS. There's ups and downs. But what they say here is, a group of Raven Software QA employees have become the first Activision Blizzard workers to form a union by launching the Game Workers Alliance with Communications Workers of America. Huge, because Activision Blizzard formed it. You remember the big controversial studio formed it. Is it possible that Microsoft allowed it? Like, they're like, yeah, you guys, if this is what is going to make you more productive, if this is what's going to make you more comfortable, then by all means form your union, but probably make sure that it stays with you guys, right? Like, if it happens with any other studios, then so be it. But for right now, I don't think they're thinking like that. I think they just want their employees to feel comfortable. I mean, there was that other tweet with Phil Spencer saying, we respect diversity and we want inclusion. So this would be one way to do it, and making sure that everybody's happy. So as per a press release, quality assurance workers at Raven Software have announced that they are launching the Game Workers Alliance. So CWA, that's weird, CWA, but it's the Game Workers Alliance. I wonder if that was a mistype. GWA, a union that marks the first of its kind at Activision Blizzard. Members at the department have requested voluntary recognition from Activision Blizzard management in alignment with the desire of a supermajority of their workforce. And that's another thing, is QA has always been one of the hardest working entry level positions in the video games space. So like, if you're trying to get into video games, the pretty much first step is quality assurance. Like, you're gonna be signing all these NDAs and playing all these games and trying to find out all the bugs, reporting them, and then it's also always been very tough. I know several people that are in that industry. I actually signed in for one game myself, in which I had to sign an NDA, and it's always in LA. It's always in Los Angeles. And I lived in LA for a long time, so I was able to do those kinds of things. And Q8 it wasn't for me, because you're talking to I mean, it is what it is. It's not a glorious industry to work in, but damn it, do I love video games regardless. It's weird. It's a weird trade, right? The launch of the union comes after workers in the department, as well as other current staff and former employees at the company, entered their 5th week of strike action in solidarity with members of the QA department whose contracts were terminated last month. The current strike action marks the 3rd time workers have downed tools at Activision Blizzard since the company became involved in the lawsuit over sexual harassment and misconduct claims last year. We formed the Games Workers Alliance, again, CWA, okay, that's probably what it is then, because my colleagues and I want to have our voices heard, and we want to see changes that reflect the wants and needs of both the gaming community and the workers who create these incredible products. It's extremely important that workers have a real seat at the table to positively shape the company going forward, said Raven QA lead Brent Reel. Speaking on the formation of the union, Communications Workers of America Secretary-Treasurer Sarah Steffens highlighted the benefits that unionizing could have for employees at the company, while also asking for management at Activision Blizzard to grant voluntary recognition in a timely manner. Raven QA workers are taking an important next step toward improving their working conditions by joining together in a union, and we are excited to be supporting their efforts, said Steffens. We asked that Activision Blizzard management respect Raven QA workers by voluntarily recognizing CWA's representation without hesitation. A collective bargaining agreement will give Raven QA employees a voice at work, improving the games they produce and making the company stronger. Voluntary recognition is the rational way forward. Now, if you guys want a more in-depth take, there's an older video that I remember seeing from Colin Moriarty at No Taxation on Twitter. again, one individual that was unfortunately kind of, I don't know, I guess hashtag me too, and that's besides the point. Colin still has a respect in the games industry as a journalist, and he's been doing some real journalism lately. But if you go into one of his former videos or just type in Colin Moriarty unionization, he has a very good take on why unions can be good and why they can be bad. I really, if you guys want to know the ins and outs, and it's per video games industry, it's not per everything that's been out there. This is in the video games industry. So if you look that up, you're gonna see a more skewed roadmap of what could happen. And again, these could be the bad things if you take it at face value, or it could be good things. It just depends on how the CWA wants to go about this. It's weird because it says GWA on the logo, but then CWA at the bottom. It's so weird. The formation of the Game Workers Alliance comes just days after Microsoft announced its intent to acquire Activision Blizzard for a sizable $68.7 billion. Following news of the deal, Spencer somewhat addressed Microsoft's efforts to create inclusion environments for all the studios. Microsoft is committed to our journey of inclusion in every aspect of gaming among both employees and players. Again, remember, like I said, so we deeply value individual studio cultures. We also believe that creative success and autonomy go hand in hand with treating every person with dignity and respect. We hold all teams and leaders to this commitment. We're looking forward to extending our culture of proactive inclusion to the great teams across Activision Blizzard. This is not an established union yet. They haven't established themselves. They've just put the first step forward that no other group was willing to do. I mean, even if they were willing, they weren't able to actually formally unionize. But now that they are, this is going to be both good and bad. Go over to Colin Moriarty's YouTube page and type in unionization, and you're going to see both the goods and bads, the pros and cons of what could possibly happen. It's a good video. He did a really good job on that. And that's it for the news, all 560 of you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate you. Remember, you can go find me on twitch.tv/NeoDefectiveGaming and Twitter and Instagram, here, there, everywhere. Also on TikTok now, at NeoDefective. You guys, don't forget, we're still doing the HS70 giveaway. It's the Corsair HS70 headset giveaway, Bluetooth for all, it's compatible for all devices. Your PC, your Switch, your Xbox Series is everything, and your PlayStations of every type. So just make sure you follow, you sub, you share, you like, you do all the things necessary to get me to where I need to be. And you guys will be on that journey with me. But don't forget to tag me in anything news you think is impertinent to whatever stories are going on out there, like some Pokemon and Ninja Beef. You know, things like that are going crazy out there. Those are kind of the hot takes when news is slow. But right now, there's bigger news out there. And we're going to constantly follow this Microsoft purchasing of Activision Blizzard as it starts to ramp up and become more filleted. So thank you guys again. As always, if you've been here before, you know what it is. Stay dirty, humans.